I have just 3 words for anyone who suggests we fire up the oven and bake something chocolatey. Sign me up. Today we'll be making double chocolate crinkle cookies, and as I always say, double the chocolate means double the fun. Actually, I never say that, except for that time a couple of seconds ago when it seemed like a good idea. Anyway, before we head into the kitchen, we need to have the cocoa conversation. There are 2 basic categories of cocoa used in baking: natural and Dutch process. Cocoa powder is the powdered form of dried cocoa solids. These solids are what's left after most of the cocoa butter has been extracted from chocolate liquor, which, lest there be any confusion, doesn't contain any alcohol. It's just an old-fashioned word for something that's liquid. Natural cocoa is ready to go after being ground into a fine powder. Dutch process cocoa, also called just Dutch cocoa, goes through another step. It's treated with an alkalizing agent that reduces the natural acidity of the cocoa. This gives it a darker reddish hue, tamps down the bitterness, and mellows the flavor. The process was invented in the 1800s by Dutch chocolatier Conrad van Houten, which is how it got its name. Dutching has implications in baking that go beyond color and flavor, specifically in recipes that call for baking soda. This is a pH scale, which is used to specify the acidity or alkalinity of substances. 7 is neutral. Anything below 7 is acidic, and anything above 7 is alkaline, also called a base. Natural cocoa powder has a pH between 5 and 6, but Dutch processed cocoa lands at around 7. If you're using a recipe that has been formulated to take advantage of natural cocoa's acidity, and you swap it for Dutch process, things may go awry. And the opposite is sometimes true as well. It's not a big deal in things like frosting or ice cream, but baking is another matter. Not only can it affect the rise, it also impacts the dough structure and browning. Natural cocoa powder is the most commonly used in the U.S., so if your recipe doesn't specify a type, go with that. If your recipe calls for one and you only have the other on hand, you can try to game the acidity situation by adding a pinch of cream of tartar to Dutch process or a pinch of baking soda to natural cocoa. Finally, if you don't know what type yours is, take a look at the ingredients label. Natural cocoa powder will only list cocoa. Dutch process will also include something about alkali or an alkalizing agent. And now, we're finally ready to bake. Here's the equipment you'll need: a medium mixing bowl, a whisk, an electric mixer, a large mixing bowl, a silicone spatula, plastic wrap, a rimmed baking sheet, parchment paper, a cookie scoop or spoon, 2 small bowls, a metal spatula, and a cooling rack. Your ingredients are 1 cup of all-purpose flour, spooned and leveled, 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons natural cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 stick of butter, softened, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Add the flour, cocoa powder, baking soda, and salt to a medium mixing bowl. Whisk until well combined. Combine the butter, sugar, and brown sugar in a large mixing bowl. Beat with an electric mixer on medium-high speed until light and fluffy, about 2 minutes. Add the vanilla and the egg. Mix until combined. Add half of the flour mixture. Beat on the lowest speed until partially blended, about 15 seconds. Add the remaining flour and mix until just combined. Add the chocolate chips and continue mixing until they're evenly distributed. If the dough is too stiff, you may need to finish mixing them in by hand. Scrape down the sides and form the dough into a mound. Cover the bowl with plastic wrap and refrigerate for at least 2 hours or up to 3 days. When you're ready to bake, preheat the oven to 350 degrees and set the dough out at room temperature for 15 minutes. Scoop the dough into 1½ tablespoon portions onto a parchment-lined baking sheet. Roll them into balls. First, give the balls a light coating of granulated sugar, then roll them in the powdered sugar for a nice thick coating. Bake for 11 to 12 minutes until the edges are set, but the centers still appear soft. Allow to cool for 5 minutes on the baking sheet before removing to a cooling rack to cool completely. These cookies have fudgy centers and crispy edges that make them kind of like circular forms of the best brownie ever. I should give you a heads up about one thing. Unless you live in a desert, that powdered sugar will eventually find a way to absorb moisture and turn from snowy white to gray here and there. If it's a humid day, it may start right away. But don't worry, they'll still be amazing, and once people taste them, they'll keep coming back again and again. Maybe double the chocolate is double the fun after all.